Okay, so here we are. The should be the last video for this little unicorn. I got all my mane and tail here. These ones I already weaved the ends in and sewed them together in groups of 3 because the instructions, that's what they say to do. But these ones, I wanted to show what I did. So weaving the ends in can take out a little bit of the curl. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to weave the ends into the outside back and forth through these stitches a little bit, and then once I get down a little bit, I'll come through the middle and bring it through. And I'll do that on both sides except for the color that is going to be on top. I decided to alternate. I'll leave the long tail of the color that's on top to sew to the unicorn body. In this one, I'm going to do purple on top, so I'll do the short tail. So I'm just going to kind of back and forth. If your tail isn't long enough for your needle to go through your stitches without your yarn coming off your needle, just put the needle through and then thread it through the yarn once you're down a ways, and then just pull it through like that. So I'm going to go a little bit more down, and then I'm going to go in. So let's see, we'll just go under a couple of these middle bar stitches. And pull that through. Re-encourage the curl a bit. And then grab my scissors and trim this off. And then for the other side, I'll show you with one of the longer ones. Same thing, but just different side. I'm just gonna go in and out of these stitches under until I get a ways down. And then I'll do the same thing where I'll bring it through the middle so that hopefully it won't show. And honestly, if it works its way out and a little end is showing through later, I'll just trim the end. I'm gonna do, I guess, 2 more. And then through the center. Okay, so that's the first thing that I did for these guys. And I will go ahead, turn this off, get the rest of this side ready, and then show you how I sewed these ones together. So I got all these tails weaved in, and now I'm gonna figure out how I'm gonna sew them together. So all I did was, because it says to hold 3 stripes, 1 of each color together, and attach by sticking the back of head in 3 sections. So it doesn't say necessarily to sew them together, but I figure it's easier that way. So I just hold them and see how I went, where I like how they lay. And I'm not necessarily putting them all in the same. Yeah, see, I don't like that. And that's how some of the weaving in sort of can discourage the curl. I'm just sort of, that looks nice. Bringing these together. Yeah, I think I like that. And then I will just take this and I'm just gonna back and forth like a running stitch basically, just in and out, just to hold these together so that they're easier to keep in place when I'm sewing them on. Let me see if I like how that's laying. No, what were you doing before? You were over here more. Okay. Okay. So, a couple more just to keep these where I want them. Now, it didn't specify that you were supposed to leave tails to sew these on, but it also didn't specify that you needed needle and thread. So I just went with tails of the yarn as my... Okay, so, now, we're all ready to basically put all this together. We got all our pieces assembled, or made. So it just says, using photo as a guide and working with yarn tails, sew pieces in place, attach legs, horns, ears, center head on neck, and sew to top of neck. For mane, hold 3 stripes, one of each color together, and attach by stitching to the back of the head in 3 sections. Hold 3 stripes together for tail, and attach by stitching to the end of body back. So those are kind of sparse as far as directions go, but I do feel like this is a pretty straightforward thing. I brought the box out because I figured as far as pictures go, that's a better picture to look at. So now we will get our pieces out. And we will start, I guess we'll start with the legs. This is attached legs, so we'll start with the legs. So I'm gonna put these up here for now. Take my body and my legs. You're a big ant. How's it going, Mr. Ant? Okay. So here are our legs. Now I will say, this is not my forte. The putting together of the parts, like I said, with the head, with the face, that's not really where I tend to do well. But we will give it a try. So I got my box set up and I'm looking at it. Now you can, if you, hey, get back here. You can pin stuff. I have before when working on things to make sure things are in good shape. Sometimes I just kind of like eye it out like I'm doing right now. So these don't seem to have very many stitches in between the legs. So it looks like we have about 1, 2, 3, 4, about 5 stitches, and they look pretty close together in the front. Maybe just separated by 2. So I think we're just gonna hold this guy here and get this guy sewed on. Now there's a lot of different stitches. There's mattress stitch, running stitch, and whip stitch. I tend to just kind of do whatever because the stitching isn't my strongest suit, and I do whatever makes sense to me at the moment. So for right now, let's see, I like to get it kind of lined up, figure out where this needs to go under. We'll try right here. Most of the time I make things like this, I end up having to take everything off and redo it basically. So there's that tidbit of information. Normally I would say I don't really like how that is sort of brought in there, but that's literally what this guy looks like. See what he looks like? That's what he looks like. So we'll see as we go around. A running stitch, just for funsies, is just when you take, it's basically what you would think of as the basic stitching. So it's when you just go in and out between your two things in like a dotted line. So you would sort of go through, come up, and then just go back down, straight down through the other spot, and then come out over here, straight back up this way, like the traditional, you know what I mean, stitch when you think of like sewing. Whip stitch is when you are coming around in like sort of concentric circles, except it's not meeting each time. You're, I can't think of the word, but curved, you know, so like in, up, and then you would come, you know, around the top and back in, so that the yarn wraps around the top of what you're doing and creates kind of like a curly Q as you go around. La-di-dee, la-da. You can tell that I am not very sewing proficient. Mattress stitch is fun and useful. I don't know that it's the most useful here, but mattress stitch, you just okay, so you like come into your work, right, and then you ladder up, right, and then you come across into your other work, and then you ladder up, then you come straight down back across, ladder up, and so on and so forth, and you have this, you know, ladder looking thing, and then you can tighten, and that's good for joining like two different, if you had like, I don't know, granny squares or whatever you were joining, such like. So anyways, I'm going to probably turn this off for a bit, get another leg on, see how I feel, maybe take the first one out, you know, just generally be indecisive. So I've already decided before I even started sewing the second leg that I needed to take the first one out, because I decided it needed to be further up the side, because this looks like it's about, just holding it from the side looking up from the bottom, about 2 rows up from what you can just see sitting there. So I'm going to sew this one on again, and then I'll be back. Alright, so this is where the first leg is now. I feel like that makes more sense to me. And now we're going to try to get this one, well, like right here. Yeah, like right here. So we'll see how we do. Okay. So okay. Alrighty, so I'm gonna just hook under here. Hey, that's inconvenient. Don't do that to me. Ha 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 ha. Alrighty, so now I'm gonna do this kind of like this. Kind of like a whip stitch, I guess. A little different than I was doing it the last time. I'm gonna come in and wrap around like this, and I'm just gonna do this around, because like I said, this is not, you know, I probably shouldn't really be the one doing a tutorial on this part, because I honestly probably need to be watching tutorials on this. But at the end of the day, the legs will be attached, and they should be attached pretty decently, so we're just gonna go with it. So I'm just catching the edge, just the outside loop of my stitch, primarily because it's just easier to grab that than to get both under, and I don't really think it matters. And coming down through it, and then choosing a place in the work to come through. sometimes I do come through kind of the same place if it seems like that's what I need to do. I do that kind of a lot, actually. Not all the time, but... Okay. Let's see how we do. Get this through here. Stop that. Get this. No, 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 no. There we go. Okay. Now, that's not too bad, I guess. This one's a little to the left, but I feel like that's definitely not the worst I've done. I'm also realizing that their legs are like stuffed more in the middle. But I didn't really say that in the pattern directions, and I didn't have the box with me at the time when I was stuffing them. Now, because I know I tend to change my mind, I'm not going to weave these in yet. I'm going to leave them. I'm not going to knot them or anything because chances are I usually end up coming back and taking them out and redoing it. So, but I am going to move on to the back legs and see how I feel once they're all done. And if I get to the end and I'm like, well, this is fine enough, I might just kind of do a quick sew together of these two up here at the top. You know, just to hold them in place or whatever. So we shall see. But I'm going to sew on the back too, probably in the same bumbling way that I sewed on the front too. If I suddenly get better at sewing, I'll turn the camera back on. And then I'll be back. So here's the thing I will do. When working like this, where you don't, you know, you only have so many spaces under these stitches to work into while you're doing this. So, what I'll do is I'll come through this loop like I have been, and then I will just go in through the same place that I just came out to give myself kind of enough stitches to work in around. It seems to work decently for me in situations like this. So that's this one. Let's see what we think. So I tried to space him in the same sort of line as this one and about 6 or so stitches back. I'm wondering now if he should have been back a little further, but I think that'll be okay. Another thing to note is when you're working in the round and going up, this row, each row isn't going to be perfectly straight across. So if you think, well, I'll just work into the same row, then I'll be fine. But like these two, this one is worked into this row, and this one is worked kind of more into the row above that, because like I said, these rows aren't perfectly straight, so as you come around, you're not going to be at the same height necessarily if you work into the exact same row. Because like when we had that how the end of our row was taller as we spiraled up. Oh, spiral, that's the word I wanted for the whip stitch. Anyway, I'm gonna do the last leg and then be back. I don't think I showed how I was starting off doing this type. I think it's a whip stitch because I am going around. Are you still lined up okay? Okay. So I'm just gonna come down, go through like that, then come down, go through, come down, go through, See, now in this case, this is where I had like an increase or a decrease or something. There's less stitch to work with. So I might have to skip a stitch. See, like this stitch, I technically didn't work into that one, but there's really nothing under him to work into. And it'll be decently secure without it. So anyway, that's the starting of that. And this way seems to work decently, at least for me. All right, so here are my 4 legs. I think all in all, that's not bad. They're pretty in line. I think that's okay. It stands. So I'm gonna weave in ends for this and move on. So I'll just demonstrate on the first one, even though we've already done this kind of thing before, and then I'll do the rest with the camera off. So I'm just gonna come under a stitch near the end here. I'm just gonna make a loop like that, bring my needle and yarn under it, tighten it well, and then I'm just gonna weave this in and around to secure the end. Oh, don't catch that, we don't want to do that. So since here's the bottom and we're not, you know, really going to be seeing this, I'll just sort of weave around down here underneath stitches, through stitches. Not for very long because we already have the knot, but and then after a little bit of that, I'm just going to pull it through the body, then pull the string a little tight so that when I release it goes back into the body, and trim. And I will do that for each of the legs around. So here's our little body. It's cool. Now I'm gonna work on attaching the horn to the head. Get my box for reference. I'm gonna have to weave this tail down through here first, but first I just kind of wanted to tighten it a little so it looked a little more like it came to a point. And I think to that end, I might do a little knot here. I might regret it, but if I'm gonna be pulling this through and sewing down, I don't want to be, I want this to hold still up here. So I'll just take this down to the bottom here. I'm gonna hold on to my top so I can't pull that down. Now it looks like we're behind the eyes, pretty far toward the back. So about here maybe? And it looks kind of like they try to preserve the round base. So I think that here is probably a pretty good spot. And we're kind of back toward the beginning, so let's see how this looks. Definitely like a mohawk, like for sure this looks like a mohawk. I think I need to work further out. Okay. There's a beetle. Work further out than the, maybe I should actually be doing this row here and sort of sewing it to down there. See, some patterns have like, you know, tell you which round to join from, or some will tell you at different times to place the stitch marker and leave it. And I actually think this one might have done that for the eyes, or maybe I'm remembering something else. So I think that looked like a mohawk. So we're gonna try again. Oh no, come back. A little dirty unicorn. Okay. Lay down. Think about what you've done. So, if we say we kind of want this bottom to lay flat, we'll try to take basically this row and get that just sewing through the same, mostly the same row. So let's try again. This time I'll try something else. So that looks okay. Okay, so this time maybe I'll just try sort of a mattress stitch situation where I go through and then for the beginning here I'll check. So I want to work kind of into this row up here. So I'll come probably through here like this. In that ladder kind of motion. And then line it up. We'll come under here and go up. Okay. Then let's see if we take this up, check our middle. So we're going to come into here and go that way. Okay. Now are we still? We centered okay? Looks like we're okay. And I'm gonna pull this down so that I can see where it wants to enter, which looks like it's about right here. Then we'll come up here. Okay, pull this up so we can see where we want to enter. Looks like we want to go in about right here, and this is still the row kind of above our original magic circle. So to try to get this in the center, I'm going to be more precise. I'm going to come from each of my eyes, come toward the middle, and then go back. And I'm going to insert my needle under this stitch here. Do we think that's back far enough? Yes. And then I will thread my needle and try to line it up so that this will be basically my back center. Okay, so if this is back center, we're now going to be working up toward the side. So I will come through. I think this is literally the same exact place that I came through last time. And then work my way around now. So I'll be back. Okay, so that looks pretty centered. Still looks kind of like a mullet to me, but we're gonna go with it. So I know it says using photo as a guide, but I feel like there could definitely be more instruction here. Like if you look at these ears, I've seen this in patterns before. It definitely looks like they pinched the bottom and sewed the bottom together to create, you know, that shape. But it doesn't say that. It just says using the photo as a guide. So I'm gonna operate on that premise that this is supposed to be pinched on the bottom, sewn together, and then sewn to the head. I'm gonna do it so that my tail is in the back so that I can just weave that through and up and have that be sewn together. So here we go. Okay, I'm just gonna go through both pieces. This is basically what is that one that I already said, running stitch. Just working through both sides. One of the dogs is yelping for some reason. Okay. Alrighty. And then it looks like we want to be oriented this way and on a sort of an angle down here, because it does look like there's some space between the horn, and so maybe about like that. Man, I think that my eyes were funky this whole time. Okay. And then I'm gonna grab the other ear, because sometimes it doesn't quite look right without both. Okay. So they are above the eyes. Maybe my eyes are too high. Okay, so there and there doesn't look too bad. Now, probably this video will be unnecessarily long because you probably won't need that much. Once you see how to do the legs or whatever, you'll probably be good to go. But I figure I'd rather do a little more showing than is needed as far as how to do these things. So I'm just like, this is actually an actual whip stitch I feel like right now, but I'm just going through top, looping around, coming through the bottom, and then hopefully we'll be able to make the other ear match. Because that is difficult. Did this ear get too low? I think this ear got too low. Yeah, too low. Looks like a cow. Alright, well, I'm just gonna go ahead and move this up. To undo, I just pull at the edge where I last did a stitch, insert under the yarn and pull it out with my needle as I go around. So I'm going to move this up and I'll probably, let's see, I worked into here last, so I'll probably move it up to here. I'll insert my needle so I don't lose it. Then I'll just do the same thing that I just did, just moved up a little, and then I'll be back. Okay, so I've done this one. I'm decently happy with where it is. To make sure that I get the second one hopefully in the same place, I'm gonna just look here and get kind of an idea. It looks like we basically have about 1 stitch width. So this is like horn, 1 stitch, and it looks like I worked into the second row of stitches from the horn. So we're gonna come over here and say, we think the equivalent of that is, say, we'll call this our stitch width here and work into here. And this is basically right in line with this. So I'm going to just come right here. And sew this guy on. Okay. I have my finger on the other side to make sure I get through the bottom, toward the bottom of the ear, and that I'm not angling up through the ear. Okay, let's see how we did. Oh, not bad, I think. This still definitely looks like a cow to me, like 100% a cow. So I'm going to, in the same way I did all the others, I'm gonna turn this off. I'm gonna knot and weave in each of these ends and then move on. Okay, so now we are to center head on neck and sew the top of neck. So I'm gonna use this tail. I'll just work it down through the head so that it is. Did I ever? I didn't tie this off. I'm gonna tie this off. Okay. And then we'll just go in here and come out. What is the one? It's centered. Where's my picture? Oh, it's centered. Looks like basically the nose is what sticks forward. So we're gonna come out right here, I suppose. Let's take a look. Yeah, right? We think that's good. Okay. So now I'm gonna probably mattress stitch this. So I'm gonna do it to this row standing up here, not this row up here. And I'm gonna come under this stitch and then straight up and let's see, I guess through there, like that. And then I'm gonna come straight down through the next, oh, let's see, do we wanna be, yeah, we wanna be under here. The next stitch. And then straight up and come over. Straight down, find the next stitch to go under, and I'm just gonna do this around. Okay, so for a first attempt, I think we did all right. I mean, it looks like it's got its head kind of to the side, like it's about to ask me a question, but I think that's kind of cute, so I'm gonna keep it. So I'm gonna tie this off and weave this end in, and then we'll move on to the mane and the tail. Okay, so this looks like it's basically right behind the ears. So like basically right here. I've crocheted one of my hairs into the horn. Okay, so basically I think like right here, probably what, here and here, as far as these go. So I'll get started on that. Now, like I said, it didn't tell me to leave a tail when I was making these pieces. Oh wait, yes it did. No, it didn't. No, it didn't. See? Fasten off these ends. So, don't mind me just hitting the camera because my eye is itchy. So I opted to do that anyway, though. Oh yeah, she cute. Okay. We'll come in. How do we? No, we don't want it up quite that high. Yeah, here is good. So I'm basically 2 full rows behind the horn. So this is gonna kind of be a little complicated since I got all 3 of these pieces here. And my yarn is gonna do that and be annoying. And again, probably at this point, you probably don't even need any video for this, but I'd rather err on the side of demonstrating more than needed than less than needed. So I'm just gonna come through up here, trying to work my way through all 3, even though they are already sewed together. So if I don't catch all 3, honestly, it's not a big deal. Then this might be easier. Well, not might, it most likely definitely would be easier with like a metal darning needle, but that's not what came with the kit, so that is not what we are using. And then let's say right up in here. This is the first time that I've had hope of this thing looking cute. Okay, I'm excited now. And I'm just gonna do a couple more to secure. I'm trying to do this in a way where my blue stitches don't stand out against the white, and where you know you can't really see I'm working through this every time. We want maybe one more down here. Let's see what this does. Okay, so I think that's not bad, and I'm gonna re-encourage these curls a little and do the same thing for the next 2. In this case, for my fasten off, I'm gonna come behind that blue that I just worked there too, and that pink, and tie this off there to tighten that part down. That's all. That's not all. So because this is a different color yarn than what this body is made out of here, I'm actually just gonna do another knot right here, and then instead of weaving anything in any further, because I don't want to weave it back into the tail and take away any of the curl, I'm just gonna take it into the body and bring it out, and I'll do that with all of them. Okay, so we got these 3 guys sewed on, one here, and one there. And now it's tail, and then we're done. So here is my tail piece. I definitely thought this looked like a dragon in the beginning, and then just more recently, 100% it looked like a cow. Then right after that, as soon as I got the ears and the horn on, it looked like a deer. But now, finally starting to get unicorn. Although I do still think she's kind of depressed. She looks kind of depressed. Okay, so the tail looks like it's right up there at the top. Also, they might have done their stitches even tighter than I did because their curls are sort of shorter. Same size yarn, so they must have just done them real tight. Which I did them pretty tight, all things considered. But, yeah, whatever. Alrighty, so what think we? Like right here, don't make it complicated, just pick a spot and sew it on. Let's see, we kind of want it to be off the center pretty well, so I'm going to follow the backbone, as it were, and say, here looks good. Okay, so just to give me a decent corner to start working from, I'm going to come up there through the corner, and I'm just gonna maybe up one, up one, up one. Just gonna sew this on. So I'm gonna go in here because it's a little to the right of that center line. And then just gonna down the center. Okay. And I guess we'll go right here and come up. I know we're not grabbing the blue, but that's because we want this to lay at the top, like lay flatter. So, okay. I'll give this a couple stitches probably around the bottom just to secure it a little, even though I think it's probably decently secure as is. But just to be sure, we'll come down here and get a couple stitches in through the blue. Down here. And then we will say, looks like we're center, looks like we're pretty high. And I will tie this off. And probably tie you off one more time down here where it won't be seen. And then I will weave this end in through the body, and then she will be all done. I feel like overall this kit was decent. Well, I mean, if you didn't know anything and you were a beginner, I feel like it would be confusing and that there would be things that were unclear. But I feel like, what level is it? Intermediate? Yeah, that's fair. I feel like that's fair. It's cute, pretty easy to follow. Okay, so here we go. Here is Starry. She is all done. I'm starting to see the unicorn. I really am. Cute. Okay, so here's what we got. Da 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 da. Here's how she looks. She stands, so that's good. Not bad, I guess. Okay, so here we are. Finished Starry. She's all done. Here is how it looks on the box. Hey, stand up straight. It really doesn't seem to want to. For comparison, it seems like their mane is definitely shorter, so I guess if you want it shorter, do even tighter stitches. These are pretty small and tight, but I don't want to hurt my hands, so I didn't go too tight. For intermediate skill level, it was pretty good. There were some things that I felt that weren't super clear. And I did feel like the fastening, the final assembly instructions could have been kind of more detailed, but I think it turned out pretty well. And I hope that you guys like how yours turn out. And I hope that this is helpful. So see y'all next time.